Quick Shots, a short format archery podcast for everyone. Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. My name is Mick Chambers. I am here with Jenna Magyar. Hi Jenna, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm really good. This is going to be an interesting conversation. All right, so a lot of stuff that we typically do is traditional archery. This takes it to a different level. Jenna, your stuff that you're doing right now is cool. Why don't you just, first of all, explain what you do? What style of archery do you do?
So I got started doing mounted archery, which is horseback archery. Went to a clinic. I can't believe it's been almost 5 years now. It was in 2019. Natasha Hockaden, she was hosting some clinics, and I got to give her a lot of credit for getting me started in all of it. But yeah, I mean, I guess it is, traditional archery. We use traditional bows, horse bows. And yeah, I've gone to a couple competitions for that, and mostly just kind of shooting around my backyard at the moment. But
Yeah, but it's the interesting part about it is like you are using a horse bow, right? So let's talk a little bit about that. So it's a smaller bow, Hungarian by nature, is it? Is it Hungarian?
it's an Asian bow.
Okay.
I get it from Alibo in China.
Okay. All right. So and then you just decided like, hey, traditional archery is too easy for you. Standing on the ground with both feet on the ground, you're like, no, I'm gonna get on a horse and I'm gonna do this.
Well, the funny thing is, I never actually shot a bow before I shot a bow on the horse. The clinic that I did, I had never done archery, so I grew up, riding horses. That's my background.
Hmm.
And so I just saw this clinic that she was having, and I thought it'd be super cool. It's funny because when I walked in, she was like, a lot of people just do this for the pictures. And honestly, like, I thought it'd be pretty cool to get some pictures. And, but I loved it. Like, I was really bad at it at first,
Yeah.
obviously, but just kind of combining the two was just really cool. So I never really did archery before I did it on the horses. So
So okay, so your background in horses, you said you got a background in horses. So did you grow up on a ranch or I
no,
don't know. I'm not
not a horse person.
okay. Yeah, I no, I no, I love horses. I've never been around them, so I haven't had an opportunity. I think they're beautiful creatures.
Yeah, so I just started taking lessons with my friend in fifth grade. Grew up doing like jumping, um, did some showing and stuff. Horses are expensive, I mean, as well as
Yeah.
archery. But so yeah, then I worked at a barn through high school and college, and was able to buy a property once I got out of college. And I have, my horses at home now, which is a good thing and a bad thing. They kind of get put on the back burner sometimes, but
But what a, I mean, I'm very impressed with that amount of determination and dedication to your, I don't want to say hobby. Sorry, if that's the wrong word, but something that you want to do. You're like, hey, I have a goal in mind. I'm going to get horses. I love this. I'm going to do this. So that's interesting. And then being so young and just getting out of college, I know a lot of people have debt and you're like, nah, I'm going to buy a ranch. And then I got what's your husband do for a living? Is he helping to
uh,
support this?
oh yeah. So we actually were both art teachers, but he is also military, so he is working full-time Army right now. Um,
That's awesome. You said he was in the Army National Guard, I think, at the beginning, right? Correct. So thank you very much for his service and thank you for putting up with us Army guys. We are not easy to get along with. I'm just going to tell you that right now. So giving us a little leeway. And I know that it's not easy when he goes on deployment and stuff like that. So thank you very much for your service as well. I appreciate that. All right. So we've got your background on, how you got started and so how long ago was that you took that course or that class?
that was in 2019, so I mean, it's almost been 5 years, which is crazy.
And I heard you mention a little bit that you did some competitions and stuff like that. Is that pretty common where you are, like horseback archery competitions?
It's growing. Um, there is a horse park about 2 hours from me here in Ohio, Creekside Horse Park. So they do a lot of competitions. I don't think they have anything that's ranked right now, and that's one of the hard things about mounted archery is you really have to travel to get to some of these competitions, and then if that involves bringing your horse. The mounted archery community is really amazing at, sharing horses. So if you can go to a competition and rent someone's horse, which is what I've done, that takes a bit off of it, but it is tricky
I'm
to
a,
get those.
I'm actually looking up something. Single string boot camp. I have to take a look at where that is. Single string boot camp. I'll find it. But okay, so the single string boot camp is in Ohio too.
Okay.
And I actually stayed on a horse farm when I was out there doing this boot camp, which is, it's a bunch of us that get together. I mean, they run it USA archery team, traditional archers are running this competition, and you go out there and you learn from them. It's pretty amazing. It happens every spring. And yeah, but it was in Ohio, and I was on a horse farm. And every morning I wake up, I like, look at these beautiful horses. It's beautiful out here. So that's a side of Ohio I've never seen. Usually I'm in like Cincinnati or,
Okay.
you know, Sandusky, Ohio, or something like that. So how far are you? Like, are you middle of Ohio?
Yeah, we're just north of Columbus.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay,
So,
cool. Yeah. Can you get Tim Hortons there? That's the most important thing I need to know.
yes, we were addicts of Tim Hortons there.
Oh
Yes.
my, I love Tim Hortons, man. I miss it. Being a Canadian, it's been, if you've never had Tim Hortons, don't even come at me in the comments because I'm telling you, it is not great coffee. I don't care. I still love it. It's still,
No,
it's,
my husband would take the dog every day, so they knew the dog, and she would get a little doggy donut. And when he went on deployment, that was my goal, was to go every day with her still.
oh, that's nice. When I went on deployment, this is back years ago, for the Canadian Army, Tim Hortons would send us a ton of stuff, like all their
Really?
coffee. And they sponsored the Canadian Army, so it's great coffee. Anyway, I digress. This isn't coffee talk. This is archery talk. All right, Jenna, keep us on track. You're a teacher. You're supposed to keep me on track. You're
Oh,
supposed to
okay.
be okay. All right. So so you've been doing this for a while now. Talk to me a little bit more about your bow.
Mhm.
And I'm going to get into how you shoot it as well because it's got to be way different on horseback. So, okay, sorry. Do you shoot on the ground as well?
I do now. So yeah, I have obviously my own horse. He's
Hmm.
very reactive, so shooting off of him, I'm very cautious about it. And especially in the winter now, I don't ride as much. So a lot of what I do now is shooting on the ground.
Okay.
Um, my bow. So the bow that I first used in that first clinic is a Tatar bow from Ollie Bow.
Okay.
Um, and I just remember picking it up, and my first thought was how light it was. I was just so amazed. So it's a laminated bow. And so, yeah, I ordered one after that clinic. It takes a little bit to get them in, but that's my main bow that I use. I've started a collection for sure. Um, got a Keshig from Ollie Bow, got a couple fiberglass bows. But really starting it to be able to teach people so that people can come out and use different bows and try out.
Oh, so you're getting into the teaching side of it too. That's excellent. Just touching a little bit more on the bows. Do you know the draw weight of that bow? Like, how much are you pulling back?
So it is a 30-pound bow. When I went to a clinic just past, I think, October with Elizabeth Tinnen, she's the #1 ranked horse archer in the US. She really talked about probably going down in draw weight just to be able to. We kind of changed up my draw a little bit, so I do thumb draw,
Okay.
and she taught Slavic draw, and so to be able to really pull that back and hold it, and because I do a lot of snap shooting, which a lot of people get on me about, and she said it too. Probably a lighter bow, so I did order actually another lighter bow that's coming.
That's good. Yeah, get your form down first, obviously. But I've been watching you. I mean, I know you're snap shooting, but it doesn't. I mean, it looks good. The form looks good. Like you're all in line and stuff like that. It looks fantastic. So, can you explain to me the difference between a Slavic draw and a what was the other one? Thumb
Thumb
draw?
draw.
Yeah.
So thumb draw, you are kind of like creating a hook with your thumb. So your thumb
Yeah.
like is on the finger, and then your finger wraps around. So what that does is it holds the arrow to the bow because your arrow is on the other side of the bow than it would be like if you're doing Mediterranean draw.
Yeah.
And a lot of horse archers use that so that it stabilizes the arrow. So when you're riding on the horse and your finger has locked the arrow to the bow, because these bows don't have any, shelf or anything like that. So the Slavic draw then is more drawing with your fingers. So with the thumb draw, you're drawing the string with your thumb. With the Slavic draw, you're drawing with your fingers and then holding the arrow with your finger. So it's
So you're drawing back like this sort of thing?
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
and the reason for that is why? Do you know?
As far as
Like you said stabilizing, right? That you said you stabilize the arrow against your bow arm thumb, right?
Yep.
And then also with your style of shooting, you shoot on the other side of the shelf.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct too?
Yeah.
Like you shoot on the right side, not on the left side.
Correct.
All right. So that's different too. I mean, it's interesting. 100% of the people I talk to shoot on the right side, except for like Joel Turner, who teaches thumb draw technique as well. And he uses traditional bows. He uses a left-hand bow and shoots right-handed. So he can have the arrow on that side, and use a thumb draw. And he said, dude, he last time I talked to him about it, he was like, the way I see the arrow, it's so much cleaner on this side, and I thought that was interesting. I've never given a chance. I don't have a left-handed bow, but yeah, it's kind of interesting the way, when you do that thumb draw and then this finger here is pushing the arrow up against the rest, so it's nice and stable. Obviously, when you're jumping up and down, you need that. I don't jump up and down, so I don't need to do it. I'm not that active. So, all right. So you're going down in weight. That is encouraging because that means that you're working on your form and you're going to start teaching. That's pretty cool. Do you have any tips for us, or any process that you could walk us through on how you actually do your shot?
I do a lot of, I guess, just instinctive shooting. When you were talking about, seeing through the arrow there. I don't do a lot of gap shooting. I mostly am just looking at what I want to shoot, and shoot. I followed an archer out of Canada. His name is Kenton Miller. He's a horse archer. And he kind of taught me a technique of starting with your arm this way with your bow raised. So you're kind of like pushing and pulling at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
With the Slavic draw that I was taught, she was teaching point it at your target before you draw.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where if I'm going to try that, I would need to go down to a lighter bow. But the Slavic draw, you can load a lot faster. With the thumb draw, you have to kind of adjust your hand in the way. So when you're doing mounted archery and you're running down the track, you have certain courses that you can shoot as many arrows as you can in like the 13, 15 seconds that you're running down the track. And so to be able to load that as fast as you can is a huge advantage. And so I think that's where I need to practice the Slavic draw and get that better.
That's interesting. So let's talk a little bit about competitions. When you do a competition, what does that mean? Like, what's the targets? What's there? I saw some cool shots on your thing. You're like shooting, like you're up like this, shooting that stuff. Talk a little bit about your competitions and what you're shooting and what are the targets and how you score it. Actually, would be great too.
I've done like very basic beginner competitions, but it's a long track. The kind of the adjusted track would be 90 meters. I think international they do a bit longer. But there's different courses that you can run. So in some of the courses, there's 3 targets along the track. They're not spaced very far from the track. I think what we've been doing is maybe 9 meters. And so it's really not that far that you're shooting, but it depends when you release your shot on the track. If you release it really early, you could be a lot farther, obviously. There's some tracks where the targets are like 3 towards the middle of the track. So there's a front shot, a side shot, and a back shot. There's hunt courses where you're just kind of out shooting at 3D targets. And then the one you were talking about is the Quabach, where you're shooting at a symbol.
And so, do you get a point for every time you hit? Do you lose points for missing? How does that work?
So the way that we've scored it in the competitions I've been to is 5 for a bullseye, and then decreasing by 1 as you go out. So obviously, if you miss the target, you don't get get anything. And some of these beginner competitions you go to, to hit the target is an accomplishment, especially when you are doing like the faster classes. So yeah, you do get points for hitting all the targets. You get points for keeping it within a certain time range, or deducted points if not.
I will tell you there's competitive archers out there that do 3D courses, and then when they get confronted with like a moving target, like they do fantastic. 10 10 10 10 10 10 10 moving target 0.
Yeah.
So I realized, like, even at the highest level of archery, at the Brady Ellison level, the Olympic recurve archer, world champion, they can't hit moving targets. So this is amazing to me. I mean, you say 9 yards, but I'm like, yeah, we're only about 15 yards and we're standing still and the target's moving like this, nice and slow. Now,
Right.
I do have a question for you. Sorry, did you want to comment on that?
No, I just think, a lot of people, especially, I think I've learned the most through Instagram, which is pretty much where I put all of my stuff. But I think there's a lot of people that don't understand how different it can be. And even not even just in horse archery, but you're saying, between
Yeah.
the different disciplines.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. No, I think hitting a moving target's hard. Hitting a target while moving is super hard, right? And especially when you're moving, right? Because you have no balance, you know, have stability. One of the first things they teach you as a competitive archer is that build your base and be stable. You're
Mm-hmm.
throwing all that out the door. You're throwing all that out the door. Now you're like in the saddle. I suppose you have a form or a method where you're trying to stabilize yourself in the saddle. You have a certain posture that you have to maintain. I've seen your posture. I've seen the way you shoot. You have great videos on Instagram, which I should mention. It's horse hooves and horse hooves dash arrows. It's a long one,
Yeah.
but it's worth it. It's worth going there and checking out your shooting. It's cool. It's super cool. And again, I don't think there's a lot of people can do it. So I know when you say 9 meters, you're like, it's just 9 meters. That seems pretty difficult to me, man. I want to ask you though, about speed. So I think you brought it up. You mentioned it. Like, do you have a certain time before when you start when you got to get to the end of the course? Is that?
Yeah, I actually don't know the time off the top of my head. I haven't done any timed competitions at the canner, which is the faster um, classes. I want to say it's like 11 to 13 to get down a 90-meter track, seconds.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So, yeah, you got to get off 3 arrows in that time. And then, the courses where you can just shoot as many. Some people get, 6, 7, 8 arrows off in that time.
Yeah, that's incredible. Again, you're what you're doing is incredible. I just think that this is the most interesting thing to come to archery. I mean, it just takes it to that another level. I first of all, it's tough riding a horse, but you grew up with horses, so you're probably like, well, you know what? It's a horse is a horse is a horse, of course. For someone who's never been around a horse, I'm gonna hold on to that thing with my dear life. Both hands on, my knees squished in. Yeah, I'm not pulling a bow out and letting go of that horse at any point in time. So,
Yeah,
how do you?
definitely. I mean, having a jumping background where you're supposed to be out of the saddle definitely has helped, I think, with that. But yeah, you have you're controlling the horse with your legs and you have no control of its head. And it's a lot of trust in the horse, and the horse plays a big role in it for sure.
Yeah, that's good. So did you say that you rent or you use another horse at competitions because yours is a little skittish for? Is that what you?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, again, I got to give tons of credit to Natasha because I've always been able to use her horses as far as in competitions and at the clinics. And I know a lot of people, when you go to clinics and competitions, they have horses available to rent. And I think that is kind of my goal, is to start building another collection of horses, so that people can come here and try it out and have a facility where I could host some clinicians and get people started in it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm so this is one of those reasons why, we need to get that's why I set up this podcast, to be honest with you, is to get people like you on here who are like, yeah, I'm going to set up clinics. I'm going to bring people in and we're going to teach this and we're going to, it's here in Ohio and make that, try and bring that central, bring that to people from Ohio and the surrounding areas. You're really central. I mean, you really are in a good central location. And it sounds like you have a great facility out there. So that would be awesome. I'd love to see that. I will track you on Instagram anyway. I will stalk you because when I see people doing horse shooting, sorry, how do you say it? Is it
Mounted archery or
horseback?
archery.
Mounted archery. So when I see people doing mounted archery, it's really cool to me because the way you're doing is more, it's sort of Mongolian or like what, I don't know. That's in my head. It comes out Mongolian. I don't know why. And then I have a friend, Jess in Tokyo, who's been on the show, and I don't know if do you follow her on
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I love her to death. I comment on all her stuff. She's probably like, "Hey, dude, stop now. Enough's enough." You'll get there. You'll know what I mean in a minute. But yeah, she does mounted archery, sort of, I guess. But she gets on a horse and she shoots a bow. I think that's pretty cool, and that's the Japanese style.
Yeah.
I was over in Japan after I finished school or the army. I actually moved over to Japan for a year, and so I think it's just that's pretty fun and interesting. I would never do it again. I don't have a background in horses. So what if someone like me wanted to come to one of your, let's say you're hosting a clinic. Let's say 2 years from now, you've got horses, you've got a stable, you've got non-finicky horses. Maybe a mule for me, I don't know, or a donkey. I could get on can I start on a donkey or no? I'd be like something.
Donkeys don't get very big, but I mean, we can maybe try.
I would. I think a riding lawnmower. Maybe I'm going to start off on it with a riding
I've
lawnmower.
I've done my tractor. I mean, you can't.
How would I start? Seriously, serious question. How would I start?
So I mean, regardless of whether you have an archery background or not, definitely starting on the ground, teaching safety, but also teaching the safety with the horses as well. Probably leading you down the track would probably be a good place to start as far as shooting off of the horse. My first clinic, I was shooting the bow so that the limb was hitting my leg every time. So like you kind of have to have your bow out from the horse. And I definitely was not. And so I came home and I had just like bruises all over my leg. And I never felt it when it was in the moment, that adrenaline's going and stuff. But yeah, teaching the safety part of it and on the ground for sure first.
You're not selling this because now you're like, not only do you have to be in the saddle and shoot a bow, no hands on the horse, but you have to lean over, get out of the saddle.
Yeah, so I got yelled at actually for that one in a clinic of not to lean. Some horses are trained to go where your body kind of goes, especially in mounted archery. So yeah,
It's tough.
it is.
It does not sound easy. It does not sound easy. So that's why I just have a massive amount of respect for what you're doing. It's really cool. I did, I did think that, people who are growing up around horses, even if you were growing up around horses, it still seems like a different skill set that you guys are mastering with this. And it's interesting that you talked about the fact that, some horses are good with this and some are not.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine. You think about back of these old Western movies or even modern Western movies, like they're shooting guns off of horses. Like, I mean, that loud noises and stuff like that. I don't know how you train that horse to not respond to something like that. Aren't they typically skittish in general, horses?
They are flight animals, but I've had a chance to kind of work with a few horses around here, some friends and things that wanted to try it. And I gotta say, most of them are fine with the arrows. It's hitting the target. This seems to be like the biggest thing. So I mean, if you're starting out, again on the ground, making sure that they're not going to be super reactive on the ground. Walking with them. Everything that I've done so far has been, starting on the ground, getting the sound of the arrows, getting them used to it. A lot of positive reinforcement. I mean, any way you would train an animal, I guess.
Hey, last sort of question for you. What is some advice you would give to so people getting into traditional archery? Like, what would you say? how do we get more people involved in archery?
Good question. I think looking back on my journey, being able to accept criticism, I mean, putting yourself out there is hard, but that's how I've learned the most. I really, as far as archery goes, haven't had a lot of training beyond what people have helped me on Instagram, or any YouTube videos that I can watch. I saw Byron Ferguson at a hunting expo that was here. And I know I've posted his quote before in his book about the minute you stop challenging yourself, that's as good as you'll ever get. So just keep practicing, keep challenging yourself, and research.
That's great. You're quoting Byron Ferguson. That is awesome. No,
So cool.
yeah, it's amazing that you're taking it to that next level and actually and trying to get better at becoming and getting coaching too is really awesome. And I think that that's a great lesson for everyone. It's like the more don't just try and learn everything on your own. It's the longer path, I think, right? And so it sounds like you're doing a lot of coaching. You're getting a lot of coaching. You're going about to give and return that favor to people. I think that's amazing. So if people want to get a hold of you or talk to you again, stalk you like I'm doing right now, how would they do that?
Yeah, so I would just start out messaging me on my Instagram, like you said, horsehooves_and_arrows, and go from there.
So how long do you think before you're able to, like, if I were to pressure you right now, how long before you were able to say, okay, I'm going to be ready to set up these clinics and start teaching people?
So my goal is to get the barn built this coming summer and kind of start building from there. So I'm not sure if by the end of this summer it'll be something that'll be like public necessarily, but definitely some local things. And then I'm hoping by the next year it would be full swing.
Well, I'm pushing for you. I'm pulling for you. I mean, I think that that would be really cool. And then we'll have you back on again
Yeah.
to do and we'll promote all your clinics, all of them. Anything
Thank you.
that you do or anything that you get. No, thank you for being on the show. I really appreciate it. It's been amazing getting to know you and understanding, mounted archery, because I think it's so neat. So, there is one thing that I forgot to ask you. When will we see you in movies, in a movie? I mean, this skill set that you have to do this they must need people like you in Hollywood or like in movies.
That's a good question. Maybe I should. That's my next goal is to start making a movie or something. I'm not sure, but no, I'm actually starting my Instagram. Like I'm a very private person. Like I'm
Oh, okay.
actually very shy in real life. I guess. Um, so that would be a big ask, I guess, to get on there.
Theater kids are very introverted, so just FYI. But then when they get on stage, like, I
Yeah.
mean, you did great in this interview. I mean, you're just like, yeah, I know everything. Like, boom, 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 boom. So I think that you'd be great doing that. And they've got to need people who have this skill set. I just, they're making so many. What's that guy's name that makes all the Western movies? Someone will tell me in the comments. The guy that does like Yellowstone and all the makes all these movies, but he's making a ton of them, right? And so they probably need your skill set. Is all I'm saying. And I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to be your manager and help you to get some more money on the side so that you can build this and get going, because I really want to see it
I love
succeed.
it. Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks very much. I appreciate it. Do you guys say anything to anyone? You got any other comments before we close out?
I mean, honestly, thanks for your support, and I'm excited for what's to come.
I'm really excited for you too. All right. Well, thanks again, Jenna, for joining us. I appreciate you. For everyone that stuck around, don't forget to go to if you're going to get archery equipment, if it's traditional archery equipment, archerypass.com. That's our sponsor. We love them. The Push Archery is a great place. They're a sponsor of ours as well. Go over there. They've got great learning tools, and they've got great stuff like hip quivers and AccuTune. They've got a lot of good stuff over at the pusharchery.com. Yeah, thanks for joining us. Hunt the good stuff, guys. We'll talk to you soon. All right, bye.
Bye.
What tab are you shooting?
Ghost tab, obviously.
Don't forget to check out our sponsor, archerypass.com, for all your traditional archery needs.